You know, we spend so much of our cognitive energy trying to master complexity.
Oh, yeah.
Things like learning new software or trying to decode geopolitics or even just those huge multi-year projects at work. We think the biggest gains have to come from the hardest effort.
Hmm.
But what if the most powerful tool you have for immediate positive influence is something you say every single day, maybe without even thinking about it?
Well, it's just human nature, isn't it?
Yeah.
We overlook the simplest, most consistent things in our daily lives.
Right.
We just treat them like, I don't know, linguistic white noise.
Yeah.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into a phrase that is so common it's almost invisible.
Almost.
And yet, the research we've pulled suggests it's a foundational uh, and really potent tool for managing your mood, your productivity, and just the whole emotional trajectory of your environment.
And we are talking about two simple words. Good morning.
That's it.
Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds like a corporate training video, not a deep dive.
Right.
But our mission today is not to just tell you that this phrase is polite. Our mission is to really extract the specific psychological and sociological mechanisms that give these two little words such disproportionate power.
Absolutely. The literature, it doesn't treat this phrase as just, a vocabulary entry. It's presented as a behavioral strategy.
A strategy, I like that.
It's a deliberate way to inject positivity and hope into the social contract right when the day begins. It's
Yeah.
all about setting an immediate, friendly atmosphere through, well, intentional action.
Okay, let's unpack that. If this is a tool, then what are the rules, the boundaries for using it? We should probably start with the most obvious one, which is the time constraint.
Yeah.
What's the window for using this phrase effectively?
The time boundary is crucial. It's what gives the phrase its specific meaning, initiating a shared day. It's defined as being appropriate from early morning until roughly noon.
Around noon.
Once that clock ticks over, the energy just sort of dissipates, and then you switch to good afternoon.
Yeah.
And this boundary isn't just arbitrary. It signifies the end of the day's launch phase, if you will.
And this isn't just for your close circle, your family or friends. The source material really emphasizes its incredible universality.
Precisely. It's a polite, respectful greeting that just transcends context. You can use it in a kindergarten classroom or a high-stakes investor meeting, and it still performs its basic function.
So it's reliable.
It's one of the few high-impact communication tools you can really rely on in almost any setting.
But wait, couldn't just saying hello do the same thing?
Ah, that's a fantastic distinction.
Like, what makes good morning so powerful, specifically?
Well, the research points out that hello it's neutral. It's just an acknowledgement. But good morning, it contains an inherent wish, a positive, future-oriented wish. But the real power upgrade comes from the nonverbal part.
How you say it.
Exactly, it's how it's delivered. One study pointed out that when you pair those words with genuine eye contact and a smile, you actually trigger what are called mirror neurons in the person you're talking to.
Ah, okay, so the neurological connection, it's not just a nice thing to do, it's biologically contagious.
It is biologically contagious. When you deliver a genuine smile, the other person's brain processes it, and often, unconsciously, mirrors the facial muscles for that emotion.
Wow.
It promotes an immediate, shared sense of well-being. So when you say good morning with warmth, you are actively demonstrating kindness, respect. It gives the phrase real social punch.
And that delivery piece connects directly to social expectations too, right? The literature we looked at emphasizes that in many English-speaking cultures, acknowledging someone in the morning, it's not really optional.
No, it's a fundamental expectation of courtesy.
Right. So if you fail to do it, it can be seen as a slight or a signal that you're preoccupied or just rude.
It really moves beyond being just a pleasantry and becomes a building block for trust. Which brings us to the core, so what, of all this.
Yeah.
You said this phrase shouldn't be underestimated. Why is that hidden impact so vital, beyond just being nice?
This is where we get into the real psychological architecture. The importance of saying good morning is deeply rooted in behavioral science, specifically something called emotional contagion.
That is the key mechanism. A positive morning greeting immediately alters the emotional climate. And crucially, it actively helps to reduce stress and anxiety in others.
I can see that.
Think about it. Most people show up to a shared space, an office, a school, and they're carrying some level of stress with them.
Sure, from the commute, from home.
Exactly. A genuine, welcoming good morning acts like a social lubricant. It signals safety, goodwill, And that immediately helps to downregulate that stress response.
I think we've all felt that. You walk into a tense, silent room and it's stressful. But if you walk into a place where people are warmly acknowledging each other, it's instantly calming.
Right.
It changes the filter through which you see the rest of your day.
And that filtering mechanism is what's called anchoring bias. The very first piece of information or the first emotional input you get in a situation, it tends to heavily influence all your later judgments.
Okay.
So by intentionally making that first interaction a positive anchor, a warm good morning, you are statistically increasing the chance that all the following interactions will be seen more favorably. You're setting the day's emotional standard.
So we're not just boosting mood in the moment. We are actively biasing the other person toward optimism for the next few hours. That's huge leverage for just 2 words.
It is. And beyond just the individual psychological benefits, the relational benefits are massive. The consistent practice of this positive acknowledgement is one of the easiest ways to build what we call social capital.
Can you explain that concept for us? How does a simple greeting build social capital?
Sure. Social capital is basically the network of relationships between people who live and work together. It's what allows a society to function effectively. So every time you offer a genuine, respectful greeting, you're making a tiny micro investment in trust, in goodwill, in mutual obligation with that person. Over time, those little investments compound.
Into stronger relationships.
Strong working relationships, a resilient support network. You're acknowledging your shared humanity before you dive into the shared deadlines.
Let's make this more concrete. Let's look at the scenarios from the literature, like the one about the classroom setting.
Yeah, that's a powerful illustration of anchoring bias in action. When a teacher starts the class by intentionally and individually saying good morning to students,
Maybe even by name.
especially if they use their name, it instantly makes that classroom feel safe, friendly, encouraging. And that is so crucial for learning. It lowers what they call the affective filter and makes students more open to instruction. It sets an expectation of mutual respect from minute one.
And that same dynamic plays out dramatically in the corporate world, too. The research we saw showed clear links between morning acknowledgments and team performance.
Yes, absolutely. When employees consistently greet each other, the sources suggest it directly builds teamwork and mutual respect. It shifts the environment from being purely transactional to being relational.
Makes sense.
And a team that feels respected by its members is far more likely to collaborate effectively, to tolerate the stress of deadlines and conflict. It's a foundational act of inclusion.
Yeah, if I feel seen and respected when I walk in the door, I'm much more willing to give my best effort later when a problem comes up. It's an investment in the organization's resilience.
Exactly. That initial acknowledgement validates the person's presence.
Yeah.
It ensures they don't feel like just an invisible cog in the machine.
Okay, so we understand the power and the mechanism. Now we have to talk about execution. Because this phrase is so flexible, right? It spans formal and informal situations. How do we calibrate the delivery correctly?
That calibration is key. It shows, understand linguistic pragmatics, how context shapes meaning. In really formal settings like offices, official meetings, interviews, the greeting often needs to be followed by a specific identifier to show respect for the hierarchy or the group.
So just good morning on its own might sound a bit too abrupt, too casual. You need to add that title.
Precisely. You shift to something like, good morning, Madam CEO, or if you're addressing a group, good morning, everyone. The addition of that title or collective noun is a formal nod to the professional structure you're in.
And then in contrast, when you shift to informal use with friends or family, the whole thing just relaxes.
Completely.
It goes from being a standalone statement to a launch pad for a real conversation.
Absolutely. In those casual settings, it's paired with relational questions. And that leverages the reciprocity principle. You offer warmth, and you expect a bit of information back.
Yeah.
You'll hear, good morning, how you doing today? Or good morning, did you catch that game last night? The intent shifts from just being polite to actively engaging.
But what's fascinating is that even when the formality changes, the delivery requirement stays universally high. The source material really drills down on the crucial role of tone.
Oh, yeah?
You can't fake the psychological benefits we've been talking about.
No, you cannot. A mumbled or, half-hearted greeting completely nullifies the positive effect. The requirements are explicit.
Yeah.
It has to be spoken clearly, calmly, and confidently.
So that warm, friendly tone is what makes it feel genuine.
It's everything. If the tone is flat or sarcastic or rushed, The recipient's mirror neurons won't fire in that positive way. You lose the stress reduction, you lose the positive anchoring. It's all gone.
It turns the phrase from a behavioral strategy right back into an empty linguistic footnote if the delivery is poor.
It requires actual intentional effort, and that's why the sources recommend practice. For people learning English or just trying to internalize this social skill, the guidance is to practice the pronunciation slowly.
To just repeat the phrase.
Repeat the phrase to improve fluency. It's treated like a fundamental exercise because sounding authentic is what separates a powerful social tool from just making a sound.
Let's pivot now, because so much of our life is dominated by screens. Does this powerful two-word tool still work when it's stripped of the smile, the tone, the eye contact? What happens to good morning in the digital dimension?
It still has a significant function, yeah. But its execution requires more conscious effort to make up for those missing nonverbal cues. In written form, so emails, chat, social media, good morning, acts as a necessary buffer before you get to the core message.
So in a professional email, what's its primary role? It can't anchor the mood with a smile.
Right. There, it acts as an immediate courtesy and professionalism filter. Starting an email with good morning signals that you respect the recipient's time and position, even if the content of the email is difficult or demanding.
It's a formality that protects the relationship.
It is. It helps maintain a baseline of courtesy, especially in complex or contentious digital arguments.
And how does this change across different platforms? I mean, on Slack or Teams, things feel much more informal than email. Do I still need that formal opening?
The sources address this. They talk about varying levels of what they call digital proxemics. In a fast-paced chat environment like Slack, a formal "good morning, everyone" might feel a little stiff.
A bit overly managerial, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So what people do is they compensate. They rely on visual cues to replace the missing tone.
Ah, so this is where the emoji comes in, the digital stand-in for a smile.
That's it. In an informal chat, an abbreviated GM, or morning, followed by an tone.
Okay.
Those little cues, the emoji, the exclamation point, they're attempts to digitally simulate the enthusiasm and sincerity that you'd have in a face-to-face exchange. The goal is still the same. Anchor the interaction positively.
But the core principle is the same. You have to acknowledge the start of the working day, regardless of the medium. If you don't, it can be seen as rude.
It certainly can. And the digital environment can magnify that perception because text has no inherent warmth.
Right.
If you just skip the greeting and jump straight into "where's the report?" It sounds aggressive. But if you start with "good morning, where is the report?" It softens the request and preserves that little micro-investment of social capital.
This has really elevated a two-word phrase from just a social default into a deliberate behavioral strategy rooted in psychology. So what's the core conclusion we should take away about the immense power packed into good morning?
The core conclusion from all the source material is that good morning is a small phrase that yields massive returns in social capital. It is a highly effective, very low-effort tool for promoting politeness, driving positive communication through emotional contagion, and just strengthening the relational fabric of any shared environment.
And for you, the listener, the key takeaway is purely about application. It's about being intentional, understanding the mechanisms, the anchoring bias, the mirror neurons, reciprocity. It helps you use it correctly and genuinely. And that intentionality is the key to harnessing its power in your real life.
Yeah, and we connect this to the bigger picture of just daily human interaction. It raises a really important question. What is the collective effect of intentional, consistently applied positivity? The research suggests that by using this simple greeting every day, you're not just making your day better. You are actively contributing to a more psychologically supportive environment for everyone you meet.
So perhaps the provocative thought to carry into your day is this. If the emotional climate of your workplace, your home, or even your commute is largely determined by the first acknowledgement that's shared, what happens when you decide to become the deliberate anchor of that positivity? How much more productive, less stressed, and more fulfilling could your reality become just by fully leaning into the power of those two simple words? Thank you for diving deep with us.